Deep in the heart of an ancient forest, beyond the reach of mortal men, there existed a being unlike any other. She was known by many names: the Eternal One, the Silent Watcher, the Fairy that cannot die. But long ago, before time erased her true name, she was called Sylvan. Sylvan had lived for centuries, perhaps millennia. No one knew when she was born, not even the oldest trees that whispered to the wind. She had outlived empires, watched castles rise and crumble, and seen kings turn to dust. Where once she played with human children in sunlit meadows, she now walked alone, for every friend she had ever made had long since faded into nothingness. She was not like other fairies, who danced in moonlight and vanished with the seasons. She could not fade, nor wither, nor succumb to time. Death, it seemed, had forgotten her name. Once, long ago, Sylvan had been different. She had been like any other fairy, full of laughter, mischief, and wonder. But everything changed when she fell in love with a human. His name was Edric, a humble blacksmith who lived in a village at the edge of the forest. Unlike others, he did not fear fairies, nor did he seek to trap them for wishes. He simply admired the beauty of the world and treated Sylvan as an equal. For years, they shared quiet moments beneath the old oak tree, watching the stars, telling stories, and dreaming of a life where a fairy and a man could be together. But humans are fragile things. One bitter winter, sickness swept through the land. Edric, despite his strength, could not fight what the mortal body could not endure. As he lay dying, Sylvan begged the gods for a single gift: the power to save him. The gods answered, but not in the way she hoped. They gave her immortality, an eternal life where she would never age, never suffer, never die. But she could not pass this gift to others. She could only watch as those she loved slipped away, powerless to follow them into the beyond. Edric died in her arms, whispering her name one last time. And Sylvan remained. Time moved forward, but Sylvan did not. She saw villages turn to cities, forests cut down, and rivers redirected by men who had no memory of the world she once knew. She learned to hide, watching humanity from the shadows, never daring to love again. She wandered through empty meadows where children once played, visited ruins where laughter had once echoed, and sat beneath the same old oak tree, now twisted and broken, where she had once held Edric's hand. Her heart had turned to stone. But the worst pain was not loneliness. It was remembering. Every face she had ever known, every voice she had ever loved, haunted her like ghosts. She could recall the sound of a child's laughter from centuries ago, the warmth of a hand that had long since turned to dust. Yet she could never follow them. She had once feared death. Now she longed for it. One evening, under the glow of a crescent moon, she heard a child crying. Following the sound, she found a little girl, lost and shivering in the woods. The child's face was streaked with tears, her hands trembling from the cold. For the first time in centuries, Sylvan hesitated. She could have turned away, continued her existence as the Silent Watcher. But instead, she knelt beside the child, wrapping her in a cloak of fairy light. The girl, too young to understand fear, looked up at her and smiled. "Are you a fairy?" she asked. Sylvan's voice cracked, unused for so long. "I was once," she whispered. The girl reached for her hand. "Then can you help me find my way home?" Sylvan stared at the small fingers curling around hers. In that moment, something long buried within her stirred. Perhaps, she thought, eternity did not have to be spent in sorrow. Perhaps she could still be something more than a ghost of the past. For the first time in 1,000 years, Sylvan smiled. And together, they walked toward the light.